The blood pressure cuff was still squeezing my arm, tight and insistent, pumping rhythmically as the nurse leaned in so close that her auburn hair brushed against my cheek, and I could feel the warmth of her breath against my ear. Her voice dropped to the faintest possible whisper, trembling with a fear that sent chills racing down my spine. "Mr. Whitaker, you have to listen to me very, very carefully right now. When the doctor walks through that door, you are not Elijah Whitaker. You say you are someone else. Any name at all. Just not your real name. Please." I opened my mouth to ask what in the world was happening, my heart already starting to pound, but she pressed a shaking finger firmly against my lips and hissed with desperate urgency, "There is no time to explain. Please, just trust me on this. If you're watching this shocking story, please subscribe to the channel, like button, and tell me in the comments where you're listening from." At that exact moment, the door burst open with such force that it slammed against the wall, rattling the metal cabinets and making the blood pressure machine beep in protest. "Doctor." Brennan stepped into the room carrying a thick clipboard absolutely crammed with official-looking documents, forms stacked high and clipped together with heavy metal fasteners that gleamed under the fluorescent lights. Behind him in the hallway, I caught glimpses of shadows moving, people waiting just out of sight. This was supposed to be nothing more than a simple, routine Friday morning checkup at Pine Ridge Medical Center in Loudoun County, Virginia, the same clinic I had been going to for decades without a single hint of trouble. At 71 years old, with 71 consecutive harvests under my belt at Whitaker Hollow Vineyard, nestled in the rolling hills of Virginia wine country near Afton Mountain, I should have been out there right now among the endless rows of Petit Verdot, Cabernet Franc, and Norton grapes, watching them swell toward that perfect moment of ripeness under the golden September sun, breathing in the earthy scent of fermenting leaves and rich soil, not sitting here on this cold examination table in a flimsy paper gown while my heart hammered like a trapped animal desperate to escape. The nurse's name tag read M. Donovan, RN, pinned neatly to her crisp white uniform. I had never laid eyes on her before in all my years coming to this place. And something about her face pale, drawn, with dark circles under her eyes told me she hadn't slept well in days. Her hands were trembling visibly as she worked the rubber bulb to pump up the cuff, but her eyes weren't focused on the gauge at all. They were locked on the door, wide with terror, darting back and forth as if she expected something monstrous to come bursting through at any second. "How are you feeling today, Mr. Whitaker?" she asked, her voice coming out forced and brittle, like she was reading lines from a script she didn't believe. Fit as a fiddle and twice as lively. I answered with a gentle smile, trying my best to calm her obvious nervousness. "Just here because my boy Mason gets all worked up about these old bones of mine. Says after 71 harvests. It's time for a checkup whether I want one or not." She leaned in even closer this time, her breath carrying the faint scent of peppermint gum, and whispered again with such intensity that I could feel the words vibrating against my ear. "When Dr. Brennan asks for your name, you tell him you're Daniel Coleman. Please, Mr. Whitaker. It's the only way to protect yourself." My heart stuttered hard in my chest, skipping a beat as confusion and fear crashed together inside me. "I beg your pardon, what on earth is going on here?" I whispered back urgently. "We don't have time," she breathed, her grip on my wrist tightening until her nails dug painfully into my skin, her eyes pleading with mine in a way that bypassed all reason. The door handle turned with a sharp click. "Doctor." Brennan walked fully into the room now, his usual warm, avuncular smile completely gone, replaced by something stiff, mechanical, and utterly rehearsed, like a man reading from a script he didn't fully understand. He carried that heavy clipboard in front of him like a shield or a weapon, pages rustling slightly with every step. And then, right behind him, two more people stepped into the small examination room. And in that instant, every drop of blood in my body turned to ice. Every instinct I had acquired over 7 decades screaming at me to run. Mason, my only son, my flesh and blood, 44 years old, standing there in a rumpled button-down shirt that looked like he had slept in it. His dark hair disheveled and wild, as if he had been running his hands through it for hours on end. His eyes red-rimmed and bloodshot from exhaustion, or tears, or both. And right beside him, standing perfectly composed and poised in an expensive navy sheath dress that probably cost more than most people's monthly mortgage payment, her blonde hair swept into an elegant French chignon that gleamed under the lights, stood Olivia Whitaker, my daughter-in-law of exactly 4 years. Her smile was flawless, practiced to perfection, radiant and concerned, but utterly, completely false, like a mask painted on by an expert actress. "Dad, sweetheart, how are you feeling today?" Olivia rushed forward with outstretched arms, her voice dripping with honeyed, theatrical concern that didn't reach her eyes. The nurse's fingers dug even deeper into my wrist. A silent, frantic plea that cut through the fog of shock like a knife. Some deep, primal survival instinct, honed by 71 years of hard decisions in the vineyard, kicked in with explosive force. I looked Dr. Brennan dead in the eye, my voice calm and steady as Sunday morning prayer, and said, "I'm terribly sorry, Doctor, but there's been a dreadful scheduling mistake here. My name is Daniel Coleman. I'm here for my 9:30 arthritis follow-up consultation." "Doctor." Brennan blinked rapidly, his confusion genuine as he glanced down at the top page of his clipboard, then back up at me, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Olivia's perfect mask cracked for the briefest half-second. Something dark, vicious, and predatory flashed behind her bright blue eyes before the sweet, concerned smile snapped back into place like a steel trap. "Elijah, honey, you're confused again," she said softly, her voice laced with just the right amount of pity and patience. "This happens more and more frequently now. That's exactly why we brought you here today, to get you the help you need." Mason looked like a man watching his entire world drown right in front of him, his face a mask of heartbreak and desperation. "Dad, please don't do this to us," he begged, his voice cracking like thin ice under too much weight. The nurse, Megan Donovan, I would learn her name later, stepped forward smoothly, her professional demeanor snapping into place like armor. "Dr. Brennan, I believe there's been a serious scheduling conflict," she said clearly and confidently. "Mr. Daniel Coleman was indeed booked for this exact time slot at 9:30. Let me pull up the electronic records right now to verify." Olivia's voice rose sharply then, laced with theatrical outrage and righteous indignation that filled the small room. "That is absolutely ridiculous and completely unacceptable. That is my father-in-law, Elijah Whitaker, owner of Whitaker Hollow Vineyard on Afton Mountain Road. He's clearly suffering through another one of his cognitive episodes right now. This is precisely why we need the psychiatric evaluation completed immediately." The words hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest, driving all the air from my lungs. Psychiatric evaluation. The thick, heavy packet of forms bulging from Dr. Brennan's clipboard suddenly made horrifying sense. Olivia's two perfect tears and concerned expressions. Mason's genuine, gut-wrenching devastation. This wasn't a routine checkup. This was a meticulously orchestrated ambush, a trap carefully laid to have me declared mentally incompetent, involuntarily committed to some locked facility, and stripped bare of everything, every vine, every barrel, every drop of sweat that 3 generations of Whitakers had poured into building Whitaker Hollow Vineyard from nothing but rocky hillside and faith. I had exactly one heartbeat, one fleeting moment, to make the choice that would determine whether I lived free or died in captivity, trust my own son. The boy I had raised and loved more than my own life, and the woman he had chosen to marry. Or trust this stranger, this nurse I had never met before, who was risking her job, her career, perhaps even her safety to warn me. I chose survival. I chose to fight. While their voices rose behind me in a heated cacophony of argument and pleading, I slid off the examination table as quietly and carefully as 71-year-old knees and hips would allow, my bare feet touching the cold linoleum floor without a sound. Megan Donovan had whispered precise escape directions to me just minutes earlier while pretending to double-check my pulse. Take the service corridor immediately to your left. Second door on the right past the vending machines. Straight through to the employee parking lot out back. Do not look back. I moved fast, but silent, my shoes squeaking faintly on the polished linoleum as I slipped through the unmarked door into the dimly lit service hallway that smelled sharply of industrial bleach, floor wax, and something faintly metallic. My heart thundered in my ears louder than my footsteps ever could, every nerve ending alive with adrenaline. Behind me, through the thin walls, I could hear Olivia's voice spiking with real panic now. Where is he? He was right here on the table just a second ago. Check the bathroom. Mason, call security. Mason's deeper voice rumbled in response, confused and worried. The sound of my own son discussing my supposed mental decline, believing I was losing my mind, felt like a knife twisting slowly in my chest. But I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. I reached the employee exit, pushed through the heavy metal door, and burst into blinding September sunshine that hit my face like a blessing from heaven itself. My old Ford F-150 pickup truck was parked exactly where I had left it in the far corner of the lot, camouflaged among the staff vehicles. My hands shook violently as I fumbled for the keys in my pocket. Muscle memory from decades of vineyard work guiding my fingers when my brain screamed panic. The engine caught on the first turn of the key, rumbling to life with that familiar, reassuring growl. I was already pulling out of the parking lot, tires crunching on gravel, when my phone buzzed insistently in my pocket. Unknown number. I snatched it up, one hand on the wheel, eyes flicking constantly to the rearview mirror. Mr. Whitaker, are you safe? Please tell me you made it out. It was Megan Donovan's voice, breathless and terrified. For now, I managed to say, my own voice hoarse. Megan, what in God's holy name is going on back there? You need legal help immediately right now. Go to Logan Reed, elder law specialist. His office is on the downtown mall in Charlottesville. Tell him Megan Donovan from Pine Ridge sent you. Tell him it's urgent, life or death urgent. Go. 25 minutes later, after navigating twisting back roads to avoid the main highways where they might look for me, I pulled up outside Logan Reed's unassuming law office on the historic downtown mall in Charlottesville. He was younger than I had expected, perhaps 47 years old, with sharp gray eyes that missed nothing, dark hair neatly trimmed, and a calm, steady demeanor that immediately put steel in my spine. I slid into the leather chair across from his desk and pushed the papers I had managed to snatch from Dr. Brennan's clipboard, grabbing them in the chaos as I fled across the polished mahogany surface. Logan studied them in complete silence for what felt like an eternity, his face growing darker with every page he turned, then finally looked up at me with an expression as grave as any I had ever seen. Mr. Whitaker, these psychiatric evaluation and commitment forms are blatant forgeries. The signatures are dangerously close, someone practiced for weeks, but they don't match medical board samples. The letterhead formatting is off by critical millimeters, and this durable power of attorney document, Your signature has been forged with professional precision, but it's still not yours. Not even close under forensic analysis. My stomach dropped straight through the floorboards, the room tilting dangerously around me. You're absolutely certain, I whispered. I would stake my entire law license, my reputation, everything I've built, on it. Logan replied without hesitation. He opened his laptop with swift, practiced movements, his fingers flying across the keys as he pulled up public property records for Albemarle County. 4 weeks ago, someone filed a $4.8 million commercial loan against Whitaker Hollow Vineyard at an usurious 23% interest rate, the kind of predatory financing that ruins families. You never signed these documents. The room began to spin violently. That's utterly impossible. I choked out. No, Mr. Whitaker, Logan said quietly, his voice steady as granite. It's not impossible. It's professional. Highly sophisticated professional elder financial exploitation. He leaned forward across the desk, his intelligent eyes locking onto mine. This isn't some worried family finally dragging Dad to the doctor for his own good. This is a calculated, multi-layered scheme of elder abuse designed to strip you of every asset, every vine, every penny 3 generations built. The only question remaining is whether your son Mason is the architect behind it all, or simply another victim caught in the web. Before I could even process those words, my phone erupted in my hand, ringing shrill and insistent. Mason's name flashed across the screen. Logan nodded sharply, motioned for me to answer, and immediately put the call on speaker while starting a digital recording with a single keystroke. Dad, where the hell are you right now? Mason's voice exploded from the phone, cracking with a toxic mixture of raw anger, desperation, and bone-deep fear. Olivia is absolutely beside herself with worry, Doctor. Brennan said you just ran out during the psychiatric evaluation, like a crazy person. What were you thinking? Logan motioned for me to stay calm, his pen already flying across a legal pad. Mason, listen to me very carefully, son, I said, forcing my voice steady. Those weren't routine medical forms on that clipboard. They were involuntary psychiatric commitment papers. Because you need serious help, Dad, Mason shouted back, his voice breaking into sobs. You've been forgetting everything. Last month you couldn't remember the harvest schedule you followed for 50 straight years. You got completely lost, driving to the co-op you've shopped at since I was in diapers. My blood ran cold as ice water. Son, I was never lost. I took the back road to avoid that construction on Route 240. And what about the incident with the harvest crew? Mason pressed, voice rising. Olivia showed me the video. You were screaming at them, accusing them of stealing grapes when you had told them to pick exactly those clusters the day before. I felt every drop of blood drain from my face, leaving me dizzy. Mason, there was no incident. There is no video. I've never screamed at a soul in my life. A heavy, suffocating silence stretched across the line. Then Mason's voice came back, broken and defeated. This is exactly what the doctors warned us would happen: paranoia, delusions, blaming everyone else for your problems. My heart shattered into 1,000 jagged pieces right there in Logan's office. Son, if I'm truly losing my mind, how am I sitting here right now having a perfectly coherent, logical conversation with an attorney I just hired? How did I escape that hospital room without anyone stopping me? Olivia said, you'd have these moments of clarity. Mason replied, his breathing ragged and uneven. She said that's what makes watching you decline so absolutely heartbreaking. Logan was writing furiously now, his expression darkening with every damning word that came through the speaker. I made one final, desperate plea. Mason, I'm begging you, the woman you married is not who you think she is. She's manipulating you, twisting everything, using your love for me against both of us for reasons that have nothing whatsoever to do with my health. The silence that followed stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. When Mason finally spoke, His voice was flat, emotionless, dead inside. I can't do this anymore. Dad, I can't watch you destroy yourself with these conspiracy theories. Olivia was right all along. You're too far gone to see reality. I'm filing for emergency guardianship first thing Monday morning for your own protection. I'm so sorry, but you've left me no choice. The line went dead with a final, hollow click. I stared at the silent phone in my hand, feeling like I had just watched my only son die right in front of me. Logan reached across the desk and gently took the phone from my trembling fingers. "Mr. Whitaker," he said quietly, his voice steady and compassionate. "Your son is lost to you right now, completely under their control. But I promise you this, we are about to uncover exactly how deep this conspiracy runs, and we will bring it all down." Monday morning arrived with golden autumn light streaming through the tall windows of Logan's office, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air like tiny witnesses. He spread an enormous, thick folder across his mahogany desk, like a general laying out a battlefield map before the final assault. "My private investigator worked straight through the entire weekend without sleep," Logan said, his voice low and grim. "What we uncovered about your daughter-in-law, Olivia, will turn your stomach and break your heart in equal measure." He slid the first document across to me, an Arizona driver's license photo that was unmistakably Olivia, but with dark brown hair, heavier makeup, and a completely different name, Cassandra Elaine Morgan, arrested in Scottsdale, Arizona 6 years ago for felony elder financial fraud. Charges mysteriously dropped when the 83-year-old victim suffered a sudden, fatal stroke just 1 week before the trial was scheduled to begin. Logan didn't stop there. He laid out more photos, methodically, like evidence in a murder trial. Cassandra as Brooke Bennett in Asheville, North Carolina, as Natalie Shaw in Roanoke, Virginia, as Rebecca Hayes in Richmond, as Lauren Pierce in Charleston. Always the same cold, calculating green eyes staring out from behind the disguises. 8 confirmed victims that they could document. All wealthy widowers or childless retirees over the age of 68. The pattern was identical every single time: whirlwind romance lasting weeks, not months, rapid marriage to gain legal access, systematic isolation from all remaining friends, family, and business associates, forged medical records claiming sudden, rapid onset dementia or Alzheimer's, forced emergency guardianship hearings with bought and paid for expert witnesses, complete liquidation of all assets through shell companies and offshore accounts, and finally, the victim either quietly disappearing into an expensive memory care facility or dying of conveniently timed natural causes. Logan pulled out crisp bank statements next, highlighting rows of monthly wire transfers, regular, clockwork deposits from a Wyoming shell company called Heritage Trust Services, which on the surface appears legitimate but in reality specializes in producing forged psychiatric evaluations, fake medical reports from non-existent doctors, pre-filled involuntary commitment forms, and even counterfeit court orders, one-stop shopping for professional elder predators operating nationwide. He tapped a yellowed, 23-year-old incorporation document with a steady finger. And the person who founded that company, the mastermind who has been running this operation profitably for over 2 decades. Look at the original registered agent and primary officer. He turned the page slowly, deliberately. Victoria Whitaker, my ex-wife, Mason's biological mother. The woman everyone believed had died of breast cancer in a hospice 1,200 miles away. 23 years ago. The room tilted violently sideways as memories flooded back Victoria, who I had discovered embezzling $2.9 million from the vineyard's operating accounts in 2002 to fund her gambling addiction and secret lovers. Victoria, who I gave an ultimatum to pay every cent back immediately and disappear forever. or face felony charges and prison time. Victoria, who spat venomous promises of revenge as she packed her bags and walked out the door forever, swearing that one day I would lose everything I loved, especially my son. She didn't die quietly in hospice. She faked it all. She disappeared completely. She waited patiently for 23 years. She built an underground empire of fraud and manipulation. And she groomed, trained, and weaponized the perfect protege to infiltrate my family from the inside. Wednesday evening found me standing once more on the wide wraparound porch of Whitaker Hollow Vineyard, looking out over the rolling hills carpeted with endless rows of vines heavy with fruit. The Blue Ridge Mountains painted in deep purple and gold by the setting sun. The air was thick with the rich, comforting scent of damp earth, fermenting grape leaves, and the faint promise of the harvest to come home. After all these years, still home no matter what. Logan Reed pulled up in his unmarked sedan and parked beside my dusty F-150. This is magnificent land. Mr. Whitaker, he said quietly as he stepped out, surveying the view with genuine respect. Truly worth fighting for with everything you have. My foreman of 32 years. Travis Holt unemerged from the shadows of the barn, his weathered face creased deep with worry lines. Elijah, thank the good Lord you're safe, he said, gripping my shoulder hard. That boy Mason has been calling every single hour, scared clean out of his wits, begging me to tell him where you are. Logan opened his briefcase on the porch table and began setting up the recording equipment with surgical precision devices, no larger than a high-end ballpoint pen. Crystal clear audio transmission via encrypted Bluetooth to his phone and laptop, virtually invisible to the naked eye. Tomorrow night, during the Harvest Festival, we give Olivia and Victoria exactly what they believe they want, he explained methodically. A broken, defeated, confused old man finally ready to sign everything away. But this time, we control every aspect of the performance, and we capture every single syllable, every incriminating word, in high-definition audio and video. The annual Harvest Festival would provide the perfect, airtight cover, hundreds of neighbors, friends, and loyal workers milling about under strung lanterns and live bluegrass music. Wine flowing freely from barrels we pressed ourselves. The chaos of celebration masking our trap completely. Olivia would interpret my participation as a desperate old man clinging to fading memories of normalcy while his mind slipped irreversibly away. I picked up my phone with hands that shook not from fear, but from the weight of what was coming, and dialed Mason's number right there on the porch as the last light faded over the vineyard. I let my voice waver and crack deliberately, injecting feigned uncertainty and defeat into every syllable. Son, it's me. Maybe you and Olivia are right after all. Maybe I do need help, real help. Come to the house tomorrow night for dinner, just like we used to. Bring whatever papers you think are best. I'll sign them. I'm just so tired of fighting whatever this is. The relief in Mason's voice was palpable, heartbreaking in its sincerity. Dad, thank God. We'll be there. Everything's going to be okay now. After hanging up, we sat in heavy silence on the porch, watching the stars emerge one by one over the vineyard, the weight of 3 generations pressing down on my shoulders. Logan's final warning hung in the air. She'll be confident tomorrow. Overconfident. And that's precisely when predators make their fatal mistakes. Thursday evening transformed the dining room of Whitaker Hollow into a warm, intimate glow of candlelight flickering off crystal wine glasses and polished silver. The same room where 4 generations of Whitakers had gathered for harvest celebrations, Thanksgiving feasts, and Christmas Eves filled with laughter. Tonight, it would become the stage for the performance of my entire life, a performance that would either save everything or lose it all forever. Mason arrived first, just as the sun dipped below the mountains, his eyes red and swollen from crying, hugging me fiercely like a drowning man clutching a lifeline. Convinced I was already slipping away from him, Olivia glided in right behind him wearing a sleek black silk dress that screamed old money and quiet menace. A heavy leather briefcase clutched in her perfectly manicured hand like a trophy of impending victory. "Dad, you look absolutely exhausted," Mason said, his voice thick with emotion as he helped me into my chair. I let my shoulders sag deliberately, made my handshake weak and uncertain, shuffled my feet just enough to sell the illusion. "I am exhausted, son," I replied softly, patting his hand. "Tired down to my bones. Tired of fighting shadows I can't even see or understand anymore." Olivia opened the briefcase with the smooth, practiced grace of someone who had done this 100 times before, spreading the documents across the antique oak table where Mason had done his childhood homework. Durable power of attorney forms, full deed transfers for the vineyard property, advanced medical directives specifying immediate placement in memory care. Everything meticulously prepared to legally erase Elijah Whitaker from existence and hand his entire legacy to her on a silver platter. She placed a heavy gold Mont Blanc pen directly in front of me, her smile radiant and reassuring. "Just sign right here, Elijah, and initial these 3 pages. No more difficult decisions. No more stress about harvest schedules or worker disputes or vineyard finances. Mason and I will handle absolutely everything from now on. You can finally rest and let us take care of you." I picked up the pen with a hand that trembled dramatically, letting confusion creep into my voice. "Son, remind me again. Why exactly are we doing all this?" Mason's face crumpled completely, guilt and grief twisting his features. "Dad, it's the episodes, the forgetting important things, the sudden rages, the videos Olivia showed me from the barrel room where you were screaming at the crew, accusing them of stealing grapes you yourself had ordered picked the very day before." I turned and looked straight into Olivia's eyes, my voice quiet but steady. "Doctor, Morrison retired to Florida 7 years ago." "Olivia, funny how you keep quoting his medical reports so precisely." Her hand shot out like lightning to cover Mason's, squeezing hard. "Sweetheart, remember what all the doctors specifically warned us about: never challenge his delusions directly. It only accelerates the confusion and makes everything so much worse." But I saw it then, clear as daylight, the first genuine flicker of doubt, of uncertainty, dawning in my son's eyes for the very first time. Olivia leaned in closer across the table, her voice dropping to that silky, hypnotic cadence she used so expertly on Mason. "I've handled situations exactly like this many, many times before. Elijah, I know precisely, step by step, what needs to be done with confused elderly gentlemen who simply refuse to accept their growing limitations." The confession hung heavy in the candle-lit air, every word captured in crystal-clear perfection by the hidden recorders. She was admitting to her experience, her pattern, her expertise, all of it now evidence. Just then, headlights swept slowly across the dining room windows, casting long shadows that danced across the walls. A car door slammed heavily outside in the gravel driveway. The front door opened without a single knock, without permission, as if the house already belonged to whoever was coming. A woman stepped confidently into the candlelight, her once rich auburn hair now elegantly streaked with silver, her face lined with the passage of decades, but those same poisonous green eyes calculating, venomous, unchanging, staring straight at me. Victoria Whitaker, alive, standing in my dining room after 23 years of meticulously faked death and absence. Mason's crystal wine glass slipped from his suddenly numb fingers and shattered explosively on the hardwood floor, red wine spreading like blood across the antique Persian rug. Every drop of color drained from his face, leaving him ghost white. "Mom," the single word came out as a broken whisper, the terrified voice of the little boy he had once been. You're dead. Olivia told me everything. You died alone because Dad abandoned you when you were sick and needed him most. Victoria smiled then, a predator's triumphant smile that revealed perfect white teeth. No, my darling boy, I was never dead. Just very, very patient. Olivia rose smoothly from her chair and stood beside Victoria. And in that shared glance between them, the full, horrifying truth crashed over Mason like a catastrophic tidal wave, shattering every lie he had lived under for 4 long years. You lied to me, he whispered to his wife, his voice cracking into shards. For 4 entire years, you let me grieve a mother who was alive and plotting the whole time. Victoria laughed then, a cold, crystalline sound like breaking glass. Every single tear you shed over me. Every time you cursed your father for supposedly killing me with neglect. Every late-night comfort session Olivia held you through it was all performance art. Perfectly executed. I found her when she was just 17 years old, homeless and starving on the streets of Richmond. I taught her everything she knows: how to research high-value targets like you, how to forge flawless documents, how to systematically manipulate family dynamics and turn children against their parents. She became my absolute masterpiece. Mason staggered backward, crashing into the sideboard, his face a mask of utter devastation as the foundation of his entire reality crumbled beneath him. Victoria turned to me then, her expression hardening into pure hatred, and from her designer purse she drew a small, chrome-plated pistol that gleamed wickedly in the candlelight. Sign the papers right now, Elijah. Every single one, or I finish what I started 23 years ago, right here in the house you stole from me. I reached slowly, deliberately into the breast pocket of my shirt. Victoria tensed immediately, her finger whitening on the trigger, eyes narrowing. Instead of a weapon, I pulled out the tiny, innocuous recording device, holding it up calmly between my thumb and forefinger. Every single word spoken in this room for the past 52 minutes has been transmitted live, in real time, to Logan Reed's phone, laptop, the Albemarle County Sheriff's Office, and the Virginia State Police Major Crimes Unit, I said quietly, my voice steady as the mountains outside, including your full, detailed confession. Victoria, and yours, Olivia, it's all over. Victoria's face went the color of old ash, completely corpse white, her hand shaking on the pistol for the first time. Olivia collapsed back into her chair like a puppet with cut strings, her perfect facade shattering completely as guttural sobs tore from her throat. The heavy front door exploded open with a bang. Logan Reed strode in like an avenging angel, flanked by 6 uniformed Albemarle County deputies, 2 Virginia State Police investigators, and a federal agent from the FBI's Elder Justice Initiative, Victoria Whitaker. You are under arrest for conspiracy to commit multiple felonies: elder abuse, attempted murder, wire fraud, money laundering, forgery, extortion, and approximately 37 additional federal and state charges, the lead deputy announced, his voice booming. Olivia Whitaker, you are under arrest for the same charges, plus multiple counts of identity theft, computer fraud, and aiding and abetting a criminal enterprise. Victoria raised the pistol wildly, screaming incoherently, but Deputy Martinez was faster. His taser fired with a sharp crack, hitting her center mass. She dropped like a sack of stones, convulsing on the hardwood floor my grandfather had laid by hand in 1948, the chrome pistol skittering across the room to come to rest under the antique china cabinet. Olivia offered no resistance whatsoever. She simply sat there weeping uncontrollably, mascara running in black rivers down her face. She found me when I was 17. She sobbed to the nearest deputy as they cuffed her wrists. Starving, homeless, completely alone on the street after my parents died. She gave me food, clothes, a place to stay. She said she was teaching me to be strong, to take control of my life. I didn't understand what she was really training me for until it was far too late to escape. As the deputies dragged the still sputtering Victoria toward the front door in heavy steel handcuffs, she twisted violently and screamed directly at Mason, spittle flying from her lips. "You stupid, pathetic boy. You're throwing away $40 million in assets for that senile old fool who never loved you, never wanted you." Mason looked down at the woman who had given him life. His face wet with tears, but his voice steady and cold as winter stone for the first time in years. "Get her out of my house. Get her out of our lives forever." When the house finally fell silent, the chaos of flashing lights and slamming doors fading into the night, Mason and I stood alone in the dining room amid the scattered, now worthless documents that lay across the table like fallen leaves. The unsigned power of attorney forms, the forged deed transfers, the medical directives, all of it. Worthless paper now. Evidence of crimes instead of weapons of destruction. 1 month later, Whitaker Hollow Vineyard glowed like burnished gold and copper under a perfect October afternoon sky. The Petit Verdot and Norton grapes hanging impossibly heavy and flawless on the vines, promising the finest harvest any of us had ever seen in our lifetimes. Mason worked beside me silently in the rows, his city suits and manicured hands long gone, replaced by faded work jeans, calloused palms already scarred from honest labor, and a quiet determination I hadn't seen in him since he was a teenager learning the vines. Logan had called that very morning with the final sentencing details straight from federal court. Victoria Whitaker drew 28 years in federal prison with no possibility of parole for the first 18 years. Her entire criminal network dismantled by FBI investigators across 5 states. Olivia received 14 years, with the possibility of reduction to 9 years for her full, tearful cooperation and testimony against Victoria and her associates. Mason still drives 2 hours each month to visit her in the Women's Federal Correctional Institution, sitting across from her through the plexiglass, trying to understand, trying to reconcile how the woman he loved could have been weaponized so completely, so devastatingly. We finished that legendary harvest stronger, more united, more unbreakable than ever before. Mason officially signed the partnership papers the following week, securing Whitaker Hollow for a 4th generation of Whitakers to walk these same rows one day. Age does not make us weak, helpless victims. Age makes us wise, battle-hardened, and dangerous because we have seen evil wear the faces of those we love most. And we have learned exactly how to fight back when the moment comes. Trust your gut, your instincts, even when every single voice you love and trust tells you that you're wrong, crazy, paranoid. Verify everything, every document, every medical report, every concern, especially when someone insists with tears in their eyes that it's all for your own good. Real family, true family, builds bridges to the outside world, encourages you to seek second opinions, brings in trusted advisors. They never build high walls to isolate you from help, never control who you see or speak to. This is a true story, every word of it. It almost ended in absolute tragedy, an old Virginia winemaker drugged into oblivion, forgotten forever in a locked memory care prison while professional predators drank his wine, sold his land parcel by parcel, and erased 3 generations of legacy. But it didn't end that way, because one courageous nurse, Megan Donovan, chose to speak up when silence would have been safer, because one old man chose to listen to a stranger over his own family when every instinct screamed trap, and because one son, when finally confronted with the full, ugly, undeniable truth, chose forgiveness over bitterness, chose legacy and rebuilding over revenge and destruction, chose love over hate. What is your biggest takeaway from this true story? Have you ever watched evil hide behind the perfect mask of family concern, love, and protection? Have you ever faced manipulation so sophisticated it fooled everyone around you? Share your experience in the comments below. Your story, your warning, might save another father, another vineyard, another legacy, another life. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments.